to be here. And indeed, the COVID period made ransomware much, much worse than it was before. We've seen an attack of over 93% in ransomware attack compared to a year ago. You've quoted the average ransom that's being paid, which is not trivial anymore. We were talking about starting from hundreds of thousands of dollars on enterprises and going up to tens of millions of dollars on paid ransom.
What are the consequences of all this, besides the fact that companies and potentially governments are going to have to pay these ransomware attacks or pay up in Bitcoin to get their data? What ultimately is going to happen with all this data that's been stolen?
I think the first, many of these attacks are activated by private organizations, private criminals, but some of these attacks are also behind them. There is government-sponsored attack. And second, we've already seen with the Colonial Pipeline and with many others, it's not just stealth of data, it's shutdown of critical infrastructure. And we've seen it with Colonial Pipeline, we've seen it with hospitals, we've seen it with factories that were shut down. And that's something that we should be really, really worried about, especially if it's used by not just by people that want our money, but by terrorist organizations or foreign governments that I'm sure are watching that and have more, bigger powers than what we've seen so far.
To what extent, Gil, has Bitcoin and crypto more broadly allowed these attacks to take off onto a new tier because of the sort of lack of money laundering controls and regulation?
I wouldn't blame Bitcoin about that. I think the situation on cyber started way before Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin, like many other modern infrastructure, allowed the attackers to monetize in a better way. But again, I'm in this business for now almost 30 years, and we've seen an increase all the time, even before Bitcoin was invented.
So who are the worst actors? Which countries? What type of entities?
I think that the situation is it's not who are the worst attackers, but the fact that once an electronic tool of attack is being used, everybody can get access to it. And in many cases, it's being sold. There are networks that you can really go in and rent the attack tools. You don't have to be the hacker. You don't have to be the sophisticated tech guy. You need to be the one that will. By the way, the business model there is revenue share. It's like 50-50 or 60-40 between the people who develop the tool and the people who are actually activating that. And that's one of the worst things about cyber attacks.